All right, welcome to my first teacher YouTube video. Today we are going to be looking at DNA and learning about DNA, and this is so exciting. And I am going to be going over this lesson plan that I created in Prezi. I really enjoyed creating this Prezi. It was a lot of fun. And I just wanted to teach this lesson. So the lesson is on understanding DNA, the structure, self-replication, and biological information. So the standard that we're going to be going over is the Biology 1 LS1 3, and we're going to be going over that relatively quickly. So this is my Prezi. So again, state standard, this is a Tennessee state standard, and it's integrate evidence to develop a structural model of DNA molecule. Using the model, develop and communicate an explanation of how DNA serves as a template for self-replication and encodes for biological information. So I'm sure so if I'm talking to students, I'm sure you guys have heard of DNA. Does anybody know what DNA stands for? So when we go over this lesson, we're going to learn, students will be able to say, I can describe the structure of DNA and explain how it replicates and stores genetic information. So we're going to be learning about all of that. So I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. So what is DNA? So in the introduction of DNA. So DNA actually stands for something. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So it's kind of a fancy scientific term, but it does stand for something. And it's basically the function in hereditary, and it's found in the nucleus. So if you remember the cell that we learned about, and inside the cell, one of the organelles is the nucleus. And inside the nucleus is where that DNA is stored. And the DNA is like a princess trapped in a castle. It can't leave the nucleus, right? So that is where the DNA is stored. And every single one of our cells holds the DNA, basically the instruction manuals, the blueprints for all of our genetic material. So what makes our eye color, our hair color, how tall we are, that is all in our DNA, and that is inside of our nucleus. All right, so DNA, chromosomes, genes, traits, all of those are a part of our heredity. So DNA contains the genetic information that governs the growth, development, and functioning of all living organisms. These instructions are encoded in the sequence of nucleotides inside the DNA molecules. So here we have, if you know me, you know I love the Amoeba Sisters. We have a YouTube video, and it goes over DNA and all those things. We don't have time to watch this video right now, so I encourage you to watch it later. It's a great little video, and I think it explains things in a great way. So the structure of DNA. So basically DNA, I'm sure you guys have all seen this. It looks like a twisted ladder, right? We call it a double helix. So it is double. There's two sides of it. We'll be learning a little bit later about RNA, which is like a single ladder, I guess you could call it. So this is double, right? And then the rungs of the ladder are basically the nucleotides. So double helix shape, the nucleotides. So those rungs of the ladder, each rung are nucleotides, and there are base pairs. So there's AT, adenine, and thymine, and they always pair together. And then there's CG, cytosine, and guanine, and they always pair together. So when it is making copies of itself, which oftentimes DNA has to make copies of itself, you know, for instance, skin cells, your skin, you know, grows back. And so for your body to create new skin cells, it has to go to the DNA and make copies of itself to make new cells. So when it does that, it produces the A's and T's go together, the C's and G's go together, and then there's also the sugar phosphate backbone. That's kind of like the part of the ladder that's twisted. All right, so here's a good picture of that. So as you can see, there's the base pairs that are in the middle, and that's the adenine, thymine, which pair together, and then the guanine and cytosine. And then you have the sugar phosphate backbones, which are the sides of the ladder. And it goes from 5' to 3'. So as you can see, there's that 5, and that little dash means prime. So 5', and it goes to 3'. So when it is making copies of itself, that's the direction that it goes in. All right, so this is another great video, and it shows the structure of chromosomes. And again, we won't, this is well, actually, this is only a shorter video. It's only 52 minutes. So this is showing you the cell, and inside the cell, like I said, is the nucleus. And in the nucleus is where you'll see the chromosomes. And the chromosomes is what the DNA is basically spun around really tightly, these proteins, which are histones. And so those are spun around that. And then when they untwist is where you'll find that DNA, that double helix. And so when it is making copies of itself, it'll go in, and so this is showing the specific genes. I have it muted, so I can talk, but basically it's showing where those chromosomes are inside the nucleus and how it can make copies of that DNA. All right. So DNA is a template for self-replication. So like I said, your body is making new DNA all the time. So your hair is growing, your nails are growing, your skin is repairing itself. There's different parts of your body parts that are continuously growing and repairing. When you scratch yourself and you're bleeding, right, your skin repairs itself. Your body is creating new blood cells, and all of that growth and repair takes DNA replication. Your DNA is constantly making copies of itself so that it can create new cells and you can continue to grow. And then also, like, I have a child, right? And she's growing. So her DNA is making copies so that she can continue to grow and get taller. And so your DNA is constantly making copies of itself, self-replication. All right, so before replication, the double-stranded, that double helix, it will unwind, right? And it will separate into 2 individual strands. And that will serve as a template for the replication. All right, and then during the replication, each original strand nucleotides will add on to it, forming 2 different strands, right? So it started as 1, it will separate and create 2 separate strands of DNA. And then after that replication, the result is 2 identical DNA double helix. Now this is really important. It's important that they're identical, right? Because when your skin creates new cells, you want the cells to be identical. The problem is sometimes there are mutations, and we'll learn about this later. There are mutations, and so that's where we can get cancer or just mutations in those different cells. But it's amazing the way that the DNA works is it creates identical separate DNA helixes. Helixi. Helix. All right. Here, another great Amoeba Sister video, and it's on YouTube, and it's on that DNA replication. And it basically is going over all the different parts that have to happen so that those 2 separate DNA copy each other perfectly. And it's amazing. It's amazing how your body is doing this every single day. It's doing it right now. All right, so this is a project that we'll probably do later in this class. We'll build a double helix with the phosphate sugar backbone and the nucleotides. So this is just kind of going over the nucleotide sequence. So we kind of went over this already. Adenine and guanine, or adenine and thymine go together, and guanine and cytosine go together. Gene expression, so depending on the order of those, will depend on the proteins that are created, which make your traits. So it'll make your eyes blue or green or brown, right? All of those different traits are from your DNA. So impact of mutations. We kind of went over this already. Gosh, I'm already at 10 minutes. So we went over this already, and just different mutations is just from those DNA not copying perfectly. All right, so this is a video on mutations, and we're just going to skip that. All right, and that is my video. I hope you learned a little bit about DNA and what the structure is, how it duplicates or replicates, and how important it is, and how fascinating it is, and how we have DNA in every single cell of our body, and it's fascinating and amazing. Thank you.